Hey everybody, this is Greg Lake with the Theo Connect podcast here with a very special episode today. We're live with a good friend and mentor of mine, Inawah Kahn. Today we're going to have a long discussion about peyote, and so we're here, and I'm going to let him kind of give his background first, and then we'll kind of get more pointed in towards the peyote discussion. But very honored to be here. Thank you for taking time to be with us today, Inawah, and looking forward to the conversation.
Well, let's sit back and
Yeah.
yourself comfortable. Well, what's your first question?
I guess so. Let's just start with, again, kind of with, whatever relevant life details that led you up to your first encounter or experience with peyote.
Okay. Well, I come from a mixed blood family. Mom would always, from her side of the family, would always say we're Scots, Irish, and Indian, And so that, it was always, when I was growing up, there was always certain teachings that would come to Mom, even though it's, she's not a full blood or even half. But, we still had an understanding of that blood from the Cherokee nations that, down in the Carolinas. So that was always, in my mind and different things, and that excited me. But I started having visions that were calling me, and especially after getting a triple. Somebody had given me a triple dose of LSD. Disgruntled employee from a chimney company that I used to own. So it was, but that I was having visions in there of seeing certain things with TPs and these different songs. And I'm like, why? That's just, and I started putting it together and doing my research, and then just kind of like traveling around the country, and went to Texas. We went to a place in it was like, I think it was Quanah Parker, Texas, and I knew that Quanah Parker was a big player in the Native American church and the peyote. Nothing, and so I went to Sedona, Arizona, and had pretty intense visions there. Thomas Benyanka of the Hopi tribe was calling me, and it was like literally calling me. When I got there, I'd learned, I'd met him and learned about the prophecy. And it's interesting because when we pulled up, and I asked the man who because we had to go to the Hopi Council to, I just wanted to know where he lived. And we just happened to roll in. It was already getting dark. There's two cleaning ladies inside, and she said, "Oh, Mr. Benyanka lives over beyond the post office." And they pointed to a Hogan out behind the post office. And I'm like, wow, we came that close, So we roll in, I'm going to wait till morning, of course. We roll in the morning. He's outside sitting at a picnic table, and I roll up, and I'm like, I'm looking for a man, Thomas Benyanka. And he took down his sunglasses. He goes, I don't know that man. Do you? And then he jokingly said, what took you so long?
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And that's when I learned about the Hopi prophecy, and I'm getting ready to make a video specifically on.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes.
Where we're at right now, because I got the chance to learn this from him personally in 94. Yeah, it's 94. It actually got, and then when we went out to actually see the Hopi, the actual prophecy rock, our tire, we slept out there the previous night by these rocks off the highway off
in the desert.
Yeah. Our spare tire was sitting there, and we realized that we had slept on the other side of the prophecy rock.
Oh,
so
wow.
we literally, so it's,
synchronicities abound. Yeah.
So, and in the midst of traveling around the country, I was enjoying mushrooms.
Yes.
And it was like mushrooms were helping me find peyote. It was like everything was working together, and I was very free spirit. We were traveling with the Grateful Dead. So, mushrooms, LSD, all that stuff was, I preferred the more naturals with that. And then, when Jerry Garcia died, a bunch of us were talking about, what do we do now? And we were in Denver, and one of my friends was like, I always go to Hawaii in the winter.
Yeah.
I'm like, Okay.
Logical next step, right?
So we went back to Sedona and ended up making didgeridoos out of the century stalks.
Oh, nice.
Right? So we found them, it was like perfectly, they were dry. I knew how to make them. We made them, and we ended up painting those and selling them at Planet Weavers in San Francisco. And it got us just enough money for 3 of us to get plane tickets to Hawaii. And then we had $5 in our pocket.
Oh.
And we had to use that $5 to give somebody to give us a ride to this one town where we knew we could eat at a vegan restaurant if we just did the dishes. Because at this point we had no money. So here we are in Hawaii, not really sure why we're in Hawaii, but we're just there because it's going to be winter in the mainland. And, coming to Maui and realizing that island is legit. I mean, it's the magic island.
Yeah.
And they call it that for a reason. It's a magic. And, we were up at this place. We went up to a camp in this place called Rainbow Park, and it was supposed to be a place where Jimi Hendrix had played, and it was all exciting to be there, and I met somebody that invited me to a sweat lodge. And when I got to the sweat lodge and did the sweat, the Hawaiian lady was there. She told me, she goes, "You need to meet Kingfisher." And I go, "Kingfisher?" She goes, "Yeah, he's a Cheyenne roadman who's coming over with the Native American church that does the peyote ceremonies." And I'm like, yes, like, wow. I'm just like, I'm just excited. Like, this is all lining up. Like the prayers are being answered. But I'm like, Hawaii,
Yeah, it's not a place a lot of people like associate, with the peyote religion.
Yeah.
But like you say, I guess, was Kingfisher just traveling through periodically to hold ceremony?
He had connections over there, and he was invited over there to the Big Island and on Maui to do ceremonies. They set up a chapter of the Cedar chapter of the Native American Church, and he was coming over and doing ceremonies. And it was. What was really nice about it is, we went to a ceremony after the sweat lodge for the Hawaiian, the old timers that were redoing this road around the Hawaiian island. It was the King's Highway, they called it. And they say when they got done, that the Hawaiians would have their sovereignty back. So it's a big stela that's sticking up out of the earth and in the ground. And what I did was I just kind of got down on my hands and knees and I kind of like just blessed it like I had wings. And the one Hawaiian lady, Kauai Pialani, she says to me, she goes, she says, you're from the bird tribe. And I'm like, from the bird tribe? And she explained to us about the prophecy of the return of the bird tribe and the healers coming back to like go through schooling on the islands. It was all part of this really cool little prophecy. And I was like, okay, this is interesting. And she's the one that told me, she says, you need to meet Kingfisher. He'll be at Camp Kenai in Kenai. He'll be at the camp on Thanksgiving. So after that sweat, I started feeling like something was off. My equilibrium was off or something. And I had, at Rainbow Park one night, we had also eaten some snails that somebody had told us was escargot. We found out there were these African snails that you shouldn't eat. And we got sick. But anyways, so here I'm going down to live. I got invited to live in this treehouse in this area called Walo. And it was, down on the ocean side up on a cliff, and there was a treehouse by the house. So I got to stay in the treehouse. Well, for the next 2 weeks, I went through some kind of like, I look back now and it was definitely a shamanic sickness. I went through, I could not find a comfortable space to lay. First of all, it was raining every day and every night. It was just raining, and in the midst of being sick, I started having dreams of Thomas Bianca and being in a hogan and seeing rattlesnakes everywhere. And as I'm standing there, he wanted me to come to the other side, but he goes, "Don't fear the rattlesnakes, or they'll bite you." So as I'm, of course, I feared the rattlesnakes, and I started getting bit. Well, when I woke up out of that dream vision, I had mosquito bites lined up, like 7 rattlesnake bites on the side of my leg.
Wow.
And they all were infected. They got a staph infection because of the moisture and the rain in the air and stuff. So I have these wounds on my leg, and I'm going through this sickness, so I'm like, I can't take care of myself. I think I'm going to die. There's no cell phones. There's no phone service, no electricity, nothing.
Yeah.
So, I'm just like writing it out. It'll pass, but I couldn't hold down water. I couldn't move. My head was pounding. I wanted to stand up. I got dizzy. I had to lay back down. It was just like, I'm just like, maybe I'm going, nothing I can do. I can't even make it to the road if I try to walk out of here. My friend Sarah Luna came in that night because she was on her way down to Camp Kenai the night before Thanksgiving. And she's like, what's the matter? And I'm like, I really don't know. And she's like, well, I just got back from a Reiki, workshop, and I started learning Reiki. She's like, let me do some work on you, And so she did. And what's really nice is like that next day we woke up and I was functional. I can function.
Yeah.
I'm like, wow. Like I'm not 100%, but I'm like, I can stand up without being dizzy.
Yeah.
I'm like, so we hitchhiked down to Camp K9. And we were traveling hippies. We didn't have any money to put in to these to pay for these camps. $200.
Yeah.
So we would always do the dishes.
Yeah.
Do the dishes, do the grunt work nobody else wants to do, and you get a free ticket.
Mm-hmm.
So we decided they decided to let us do the dishes and stuff. We're like, fine, that's cool. So we're in doing the dishes, and I noticed on the pot looked like a mushroom stew going,
Mm-hmm.
right? And then one guy goes, oh yeah, Kingfisher likes to drink mushrooms when he first comes to the island to like get in tune with the energy of the islands before peyote ceremonies. And I'm just like, he's gonna be here. He's on his way.
Yeah.
And then in walks this little man with long black hair, wearing flip flops, Hawaiian shirt. And he's like, how's it? He's two favorite words: how's it and where's it. Where's it? Because he was more of he's definitely a Rasta Indian as well.
Yeah.
But so. We're out on the porch, and he looks over and he notices in my backpack I have a book by Carlos Castaneda, his first book. And Kingfisher goes, "What do you think of that book?" And I'm like, it's kind of stale. I'm having a hard time getting through it. He goes, "Well, you want to learn something about peyote that Don Juan didn't teach Carlos Castaneda? Come to our teepee next weekend."
Wow.
Because I'll be leading the ceremony, and you got a personal invite. So I'm like, not only did I line up like all my visions to find the peyote, but then I get invited into the ceremony.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
It was a huge event for you.
Yeah. And at this time, I was just going by the name. I wasn't even going by a name. I was just spirit.
Yeah.
And that's after I shedded my chimney business and all the other businesses and the whole like going to get married thing. Once that like all shedded, 30 years ago, new me was out and about. And I had lost my dad when I was 20. So I didn't have a father for the last 30 some years of my life, but the peyote got that with me. You know what I mean? Like really showed me like the grandfather energy and how to treat a family, how to treat women, how to treat other people, and how to have hope and how to have respect. So I went to the first meeting and I looked inside and saw this big fire in the middle of the teepee and a bunch of people I didn't know. And I'm just like, oh, because the only thing that I could, because peyote was new to me. So the only thing I could think of was like LSD or mushrooms. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I'm like, there's no way I can do this inside of a teepee around a fire. So I'm just like, I got kind of nervous, and me and my buddies, we stayed outside. They were going to stay outside anyways, but I definitely, I'm staying outside. And so after midnight, Kingfisher walks out, and midnight's like the midway through the ceremony. Not actually midnight, but midnight through. Yeah. Kingfisher comes out with his wooden bowl and a wooden spoon and gave us the medicine. So we actually got to eat. He eats 4 spoons of that medicine, and we did. And when that medicine started working with me, I could see when they started singing, I could see the patterns coming out of the top of the teepee. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like with the smoke, I could see the patterns of the songs, and so I'm just like, okay, I'm going to do this. So then my buddies were like, hey, next week there's another ceremony, and he always had them in different locations all over the islands. They would move the teepee because there's teachings in the actual setting up of the grounds of the teepee prior to even setting the teepee up. So I'm just like, they're like, well, we're gonna go and chop wood for these guys, and we're also gonna learn how to set up the teepee spot. And I'm like, oh, good, I'm coming. Yep. And then what I realized is if you do that, you get into learning songs firsthand from these elders or people that have been with them long enough to know the songs, and you start sharing these songs. So here we are, this next ceremony, and I'm going in this time. So I went in, ate a bunch of the medicine, and my leg, it's just like, I have 7 wounds, like just, dripping. They were nasty, and I'm just like, this needs to be fixed here. Like I need to focus on this, and this is gonna be because I didn't want to take antibiotics. I just didn't want to. So there was a time in the teepee, Kingfisher had told us, eat 16 spoonfuls of the medicine, 4 every round.
Mm-hmm.
Big ones, get some good medicine in you. And there was a time in the teepee where Kingfisher, he was talking, and then it was like all of a sudden, I was really feeling it. Like I was just like, I was feeling my insides. I kind of looked under my shirt, and I was like, oh my Lord, I'm like, I can see the movement.
Yeah.
So I asked, like I heard him say, just ask, ask what's in your heart, and I asked to cleanse this.
Mm-hmm.
I just remember hearing that like an echo coming through, because it was just me sitting there, and everybody else in the teepee had like gone. I mean, they were still there, but they were not in my view. I was like in another place. And I looked over, and all of a sudden my father's there. And my dad died when I was 20 years old in my arms of pancreatitis, multiple sclerosis, diabetes, and lung cancer.
Yeah.
At the age of 52. And I'm 54 now, but at this time I was in my 20s. And he told me that, he goes, with this peyote medicine, you have the ability to kill the demons in that, the dragons that kill me. Mm-hmm. And he was basically telling me that these sicknesses travel through our DNA.
Yeah,
and you have the ability with this medicine right now to cure that. And he said, all you have to do is ask. So when I did, I asked. And when I asked him like every name of any entity, all the above, the Creator, Jesus, Christ, anything that I could pull out. I'm like praying to everything, and at that point I purged. And when I purged, it all came up blood and oil. Mm-hmm. And I was seeing, I was purging. It was like I was purging the sins of my fathers, my ancestors. And I just remember my tears falling into that. And I hear another echo of the roadman saying, every tear that you shed is 1,000 prayers answered. Yeah. Right. And I'm like, then I started praying for anybody my soul's ever touched, and just like sending out this energy that I was feeling in my heart. Incredible. And fireman comes over, and they clean this up and put new fresh dirt down, and it's like they put you put cedar on the fire and then bless us off. Yep. And that road, or the Shumash cedar man, his name is Red Sun. He comes over with the eagle feather in the water, and dips the eagle feather in the water, and he drips it on my wounds. And when he did that, they all go shoo, shoo, shoo. You could people like run. They could actually see the healing taking place. Wow! And after that, it was gone, and they all healed. And to this day, I have tattoos of peyote buttons and mushrooms and tobacco flowers on those scars.
So the quick question, was this the water that they bring in at the end of the ceremony when the girls come in? Was it that water that he took?
Well, this was probably about that time. It was after that, because the water had just came around to him. Okay. So he had it in his hands, and that's when he came over. And it was. It was either, it was either that or the midnight water. And I look back now, and that was my first ceremony. I literally felt like I was turned inside out, dipped in holy water, taken air dried over the sacred fire, and then set back up. Because when I purged and all that happened, and then all of a sudden they come back into my life, all I could say was, I'm sorry for any woman that I've ever trespassed against in my soul's existence, or anybody in my family's existence. And I just kept saying, the only reason we're here is for the water. Mm-hmm. That just was like my mantra for a second. It was like, I'm sorry, and we're just here for the water. Yeah. And then I kind of gradually came back, but I was just like, wow, that was really intense. But it was like, and then my friends, these little white-haired, blue-eyed older couple, Willie and Kalima, that had the land where the sweats and the ceremonies were, they put aloe on my wounds and then wrapped them and stuff for me. And it was like, at that time, I really felt like, wow, I found a family here. And then I heard somebody say, your soul family is not always the family you're born into. Mm-hmm. And then I heard somebody else say, like little peas in a pod. Mm-hmm. That stuff was kind of like floating around at the same time, but it was like, it was making sense to me, and it's like with these peyote cactuses, when you find them growing out in the wild, they grow in families. Yeah. You never see just one. They're always, they either they'll pop out too and have more of it. Yeah, this medicine I truly believe saved my life. Yeah. And I gave this is one of the sacred plants that I vow my life to protect. Yeah. And be able to not only be able to collect seeds and grow these, but actually learning from these plants on this level
Yeah.
is something that, not everybody gets to do.
Yeah.
Even the people that sit up in ceremonies or meetings that eat the medicine, they don't get to be around them live.
A personal relationship.
Yeah, because there's definitely a morphogenetic field there that you can connect with these plants, and that's a really strong root level of true shamanism, is being able to connect with the plant without ingesting it.
That's right.
Being able to learn its songs, and different things. And this plant, like I said, definitely saved my life and has taught me many songs, and those songs have gotten me.
Yeah.
I love singing the songs, and I love singing them in ceremony because I understand that it's praising, this energy that this cactus allows you to open up in your heart.
Yep.
Because, to me, I had been taught the Bible, raised in a Catholic family, but it was this particular medicine that really showed me that Christ energy in your heart.
Yeah.
And that's what, and that's what really opened me up to be like, oh, this is a healing mechanism here. Like this spirit is here to help.
Yeah.
To help heal, and it doesn't know race, it doesn't know color.
That's right.
It was been caretaken by the Native Americans for the longest time, and now there's those of us, that want to take care of it.
Yeah. So Inawah, obviously over the years you've cultivated a very personal relationship with peyote, and undoubtedly through your own personal cultivation. So I want to kind of start with, where did you start cultivating? And then over the years, how has that taught you more about the peyote and the spirituality surrounding it? Like, what has the peyote taught you through the growing process about it?
Well, on Maui, we had an older male like model friend, an older guy, role model. That's it.
Yeah.
Role model. And he was in the town of Paia. His name is Lloyd. We called him Uncle Lloyd, and white surfer guy, from Ohio, lived in Maui. He had some buttons grown in containers, and I would ask him a few questions. He's like, "Oh yeah, these things can take these." I go, "How do they grow in the jungle? Aren't they from the desert?" He's like, "As long as they dry out before each rain, in between rains, if they dry out, they can be watered every day. They grow really good." So I remember him saying that.
Yeah.
And he had a little workshop where he had lathes and stuff where we can make rattles and stuff.
Yeah.
So anyways, that's where I first got an understanding of just being able to grow the water thing,
the dynamics of how the peyote.
So it was probably 97 or 98. I was up at the Rainbow Family of Living Light gathering in the Oregon National Forest. I forget what national forest it was, but right around the 4th of July, we were doing a ceremony, and the person leading the sweat was Samuel American Horse, Cheyenne. It ended up being Kingfisher that we knew. It was his cousin, but then they're both Cheyenne cousins.
Yeah.
But anyways, I meet Samuel American Horse, and he invites me to the sweat, and he was talking in the sweat about just the magic of living in the moment and with medicine and like just being in that space. And he actually stopped the sweat at the second round that he was doing, and he gave everybody that was coming out of the sweat lodge a peyote button. And we had eaten a couple before, and we could eat this one too. But he said, I'm opening up the sweat now in the second round because he goes, anybody can sit through 4 rounds of a sweat. This particular sweat, we're breaking it now, and when you're ready to finish the sweat later in life, come back. That was kind of the
incredible
thing.
Yeah,
because he works with troubled teens and different things, and he was at the Rainbow Gathering, and everything lined up perfectly like that. So he gave me that button, and it was big enough. It was probably maybe a 5-6-year-old button, maybe, but who knows? Because where it came from, it could have been older. But I put it in a bottle cap, and then drove from Oregon clear back to Ohio, where family's from. And then I was going to do an art show there and come back to Hawaii. So, anyways, we ended up with that button, and I had it, while I was traveling and stuff. And then once I got it, back in Ohio and got it rooted, I moved to Michigan, and my friend had this cactus in his house, and when I went back to Hawaii, I couldn't take it with me.
Yeah.
Right. So he's like, well, you can leave it here. So he was kind of afraid of it because he knew it was illegal.
Yeah.
It's illegal.
Yeah.
And it's like it's a cactus. So he kept it like kind of in a dark closet. Kind of. And when I finally got it back, when I came back from Hawaii, and moved back to Ohio, he gave it back to me, and it looked like it had elongated to almost looking more like a San Pedro or a mushroom, a raw mushroom.
Yeah.
Than it did peyote.
Wow.
So after I got it back and started watering it, taking care of it, kind of plucked back down and did its thing. And then I moved down here almost 8 years ago, and that's when it took off because it liked the heat, it liked the sun, it liked, and I wasn't sure about. I babied it. I wouldn't leave it in the middle of the pouring rain. I'd bring it up. I'd bring it in the shelter every time if I knew it was going to rain.
Yeah.
I took care of it like that until I actually built the place in the back with a clear roof.
Yeah.
But this one started flowering for me, because I sing to it every day and I give it my morning water. After I pray in the morning water, give it some. I sing with it every day and share smoke with it and, just, pray for the day and things to flow and started flowering for me. And, the first flower, I'm like, oh, I knew, from my upbringing with pollination and stuff that I could pollinate it with a paintbrush.
Yeah.
Just get a paintbrush and get in there. Well, then I knew that if I found out that if you have two seeds or two plants with one flower, or you have two, that you can get even more seeds per pod based on the flowers. Mm-hmm. So then it gave me two. It wasn't until recently it gave me three, and then just last night she flowers, and I get three from it this time.
Incredible.
It's flowering now. And just in the last month, it's given me 100. And it's like, I know it's flowering more now than it would in the wild.
Yeah.
Because, they flower and then they send up a pink seed pod. And then the pink seed pod will basically get to a spot where it'll burst.
Yeah.
And when it bursts, it throws the seeds everywhere.
Yeah.
And that's when I first noticed, because I started noticing around my peyote button, I started noticing these little teeny green things. And I luckily, it's because I'm with her every day. Every time I go out, I'd look and I would see the small little things and little teeny things. That wow, she grew.
Yeah. And
then it was like it just started happening. And every time she flowers, I help pollinate, and she's giving me more and more and more and more seeds. Mm-hmm. So they listen.
Yeah.
They should say they help us listen.
Yeah, that's right. What's incredible is that we were here Friday 2 nights ago. We shot and audio got messed up. So now we're back here 2 days later, and there was only one flower on there 2 days ago. But it seems like after our conversation about it and about these spiritual dimensions, it opened up.
Yep. I mean, we'll get to a video one of these days about how the ayahuasca did the same thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's like I wanted flowers and I got flowers.
Yeah, yeah.
And and with this particular plant, I made an agreement that I want to grow as many peyote buttons as I've eaten.
Yeah.
And I've been doing ceremonies for 30 some years, so I don't know exactly how many I've eaten.
Yeah.
To say. Because a lot of times it was powder.
Yeah.
Dried up powder that we were eating, so we didn't. You don't know how many you're eating. But I'll just keep plugging away and keep growing more and more and more, and just creating as many of these as possible. And it's the communities that I'm finding online of other growers around the world. Mm-hmm. I would. It wouldn't be a far-fetched thing to think that with all of us that are growing in private collections, that this cactus may be endangered in the wild in the United States. I don't know so much about Mexico, but in the United States, in Zapotec, Hogg, and in Starr County in Lower Texas, along the Rio Grande, they're being root plowed. Trees are being torn up where they grow the mesquite trees for the cattle. Mm-hmm. And it's not just that. People are trampling these cactus in certain areas across the border. Yeah. In just town expansion and moving on and stuff. It's just harder for it to grow in an urban environment when the city is growing around it.
So the issue with it's a real issue with the peyote in the natural habitat, being encroached upon, but that's a multifaceted issue. Yep.
What I put forth a while back when I was traveling around doing different ceremonies in different states and stuff with different chapters of the church, I realized I was educating people the fact that there was actually seeds in the fluff that they were taking off the peyote when they were cleaning the dried peyote that they were getting. And there's an urban myth amongst the peyote families that the hair has strychnine in it. That's what gets you well. That's not. There's no strychnine in peyote. There's no strychnine in the fluff. And it's different than a more cactus. This cactus doesn't have spines, it has its fluff.
Yeah.
But I was showing them in the fluff that where the seeds were. So that means when they're being harvested in Texas, somebody's harvesting them and not releasing the seeds, or they're not worried about the seeds.
Yeah.
But that's part of harvesting is propagation, is being able to save the seeds and add the seeds back. So when I'm putting, out, into the what we're doing with this, putting it out as a prayer, was all these different church chapters that are having these ceremonies and collecting these seeds. Let's get these seeds growing.
Yeah.
And if we may not, the gardens could be the source. The ones that the gardens now that they still have protected can be the source for seeds that could be grown other places.
Yes.
So, it's not far-fetched to see each chapter that's using these cactus in a sacred way to be able to grow their own medicine. As I've been talking to a lot of my friends, my roadmen friends that lead these ceremonies, and I'm like, we got to get more people growing these and get these in private collections, because this is going to save the species and our religion.
And I sent you that academic article about a week ago that basically posits, after they did a study, that if at home or private or off-site cultivation doesn't occur, then it's likely that the peyote will become extinct sooner than later.
Yeah, and it's one of those medicines that I really I'm on the fence when it comes to profiteering from certain ceremonies. And we were always taught with the peyote, there's one sponsor, and that sponsor is the one that's giving the main prayer, and then they take care of everything.
Yeah.
So they have friends that can help, but I never sat in the ceremony where the roadman charged $100, $200, $250, $300.
Yeah.
It takes away from. It makes it more, to me, it almost makes it more of a come and see than come and heal. I mean, everything has its purpose as to say, but I was taught by a lot of old timers that have passed away how certain things are.
And when you open it up to that, that's when you end up with packed teepees, 50, 60. Once that train starts, here we go, packed teepee with 50, 60 people. And as we know, singing a teepee for 13, 14 hours Indian style is incredibly difficult enough. Yeah. But, in close proximity with that many people just kind of adds to that, uncomfortable.
Yeah, we always used about 22 or 24 for a teepee, and you could fit 40 people in a big teepee like that, butt cheek to butt cheek. That's what Kingfisher would always say. Squeeze it in, butt cheek to butt cheek. Yeah. Like, we're all friends here, we're all family. Squeeze it in. And then there's a time when everybody comes in, that the children that come in the ceremonies, and we would always encourage kids.
Absolutely, it's a family friendly deal. Yeah.
And the kids would crawl behind their parents and then tuck in and go to sleep, and they would come out in the morning, or if they wanted to hear songs and stuff. And I was a nanny for a young boy for a few years, 4, 5, and 6, and he would come into ceremonies with me. And he learned songs and he would sing with me. Yeah, 4 years old.
Yeah,
he knew he would wake up when he knew that me and his mom were going to sing, and he'd wake up and he'd want to sing with us.
Especially little boys with the fire and everything. The one peyote ceremony I've had the privilege of attending, there's a young man that helped the firekeeper all night. Was loving it.
Yeah. Well, that sacred fire there is it's a fireplace, and it teaches men how to take care of their families. Because that's what it's interesting with the ceremony. We have teachings that the women were the ones that had the ceremony first, and that it was given to men to carry through this times of turmoil. And then there is sayings that it's going to be, and there has been rogue women. There has been women that have been leading ceremonies and different things, because I set up with a lady out west that was leading ceremonies. And my friend Regina in Denver. I mean, she's a rogue woman. She's got all of her kids.
And that's consistent with the overall movement, I think, worldwide, is that a lot of women are taking the reins. And what we're finding out about history overall is that's consistent with history, that women originally worked mostly with the plants and healing.
Yeah, but this, like with the teepee version of this teepee ceremony, there's different kinds of fireplaces depending on who you're talking to. Crossfire, half moon fire, whatever. I've set up with the Cheyenne half moon. Many different ones. The Arapaho one was the one that probably the most rules and the most things that happen. The Arapaho fireplace, but I like being put in position where I have to be uncomfortable and learn at the same time, because I busted my kneecap when I was 15 years old in North Carolina at a Young Life camp called Windy Gap, and I busted my kneecap and spent 17 days in the hospital. And I had a dream while I was in the hospital that they put an S on my knees to remind me of my family's sins. And when I came out of the surgery, I got an S-shaped scar, right? So when it comes to sitting up in teepees, there's only so many ways you can sit up. One's on your butt with your knees pulled up in front of you. Another one is cross-legged. And then another one's sitting up on your knees and then sit back on your legs, right? Well, I can only do two. I can't sit up on my knees and then sit back on my legs because my knee doesn't bend enough. So when there's certain times like sitting up on my knees with singing or praying or tobacco, or somebody's praying that with the tobacco, or the water woman's talking, you're on your knees, and it's like you're paying attention, you're toward the fire, and that I had to work through that pain. For the longest time, all I wanted to do was be able to sit on my knees the whole entire time the water comes in, gets prayed over, everybody drinks, and then it goes back to the road, or to the water woman, and then she can drink, and then it can leave the teepee. So my goal was to be able to be on my knees the whole time. Yeah. And when I finally did it, it was like such a relief, because I'm like, I did it. I did it. I sat, and what I did was I used the peyote and just asked it to take care of the pain. And it's like the medicine's like, that's all you gotta do is ask. Yeah. Like I'd get to a spot where the pain would stop. Yeah. But then again, when I wanted to stand up, my leg wouldn't bend back. It would take a couple hobbles to get my leg back, to be able to sit back down. But it's not a comfortable ceremony. Yeah. Yeah. In your years experience, especially cultivating peyote, I mean, what do you think? Do you think the peyote button wants to spread from the gardens to private collections and around the world? Or being a live entity, and having its own spirit, it goes where it wants to go. Yeah. You know what I mean? It's like it doesn't adhere to man's law. That's right. It's natural law. Yeah. And it's like it's a medicine that speaks. I'm its caretaker. It's like I communicate with it. I'm helping it survive, and at the same time, I'm helping to make sure that the future generations have medicine. And it's like like I said, I love sitting with it, singing with them, hanging with them, and and really feeling like you're giving me that many flowers and that many seeds, this many babies. You're happy, and if I can share, my technique and what I add to it, with people, so they know, like, crush this up or crush that up. Yeah. Because you're a big proponent of adding actual rocks and minerals. Oh yeah. To the soil. Azamonite is one of them that I add. I also add diatomaceous earth, because it's all calcium. My cats will bring me mummified lizards and different things like that, or I'll find them under the furniture or half eaten, whatever. Let the ants finish them off, and then I take the bones and I'll smash the bones up in mortar and pestle, and I'll have those. And then I take these desert roses. Desert roses are selenite. Yeah. And they contain different minerals that the peyote just love. Yeah. So I crush those up, and you can find those in any rock store. Absolutely. Crystal shops, metaphysical shops. But it's interesting. It's like the peyote, big fields, in these valleys that are growing in Mexico. Underneath them are some of the largest selenite deposits in the world. I've seen pictures of the caves. It's like and that's underground. So I'm thinking, this medicine has a connection with selenite. Absolutely. And desert roses are selenite. Yeah. So. Yeah, incredible. Let me ask you this. So obviously the Native Americans and the Native American church have built a very beautiful, I feel, a very beautiful religion and spirituality around the peyote. What if someone were to just start growing peyote one day and just spend 20 years with the medicine and then go to consume it? Do you think that they would be able to, through working with the peyote in this physical realm, gather enough to be able to get divination and healing from working with it? Well, I'll tell you what. One of the big lessons that I learned from this medicine was it'll be as gentle as a baby or as harsh as your lack of respect.
Okay.
So if you want to grow peyote, if you could get it to grow with the concept that you're going to have a party drug,
yeah,
it ain't going to grow for you.
I don't think it will.
And then when it does, the first time you eat it, you're never going to eat it again.
Yeah.
Because you're not going to have a good time.
Yeah.
You know, if you're going to consume, you know, these embodiments of spirit, you have to do it in reverence.
Yeah.
You know, because you know that, you know, if your body's more, I've come to the conclusion through my own, you know, sitting in ceremony and working with my own diet and stuff and eating certain things before ceremony. 4 days before ceremony, no sexual activity, and 4 days after, because the medicine taught me, you know, in ceremony that 4 days after ceremony with this medicine, conception can happen.
Okay.
You know, so it's like only have sex after ceremony if you want to conceive a child.
Okay.
So that was my rule. That was for me, not for anybody else, but for my personal rule. So as I was around the peyote, like 4 days leading up to ceremony, helping with ceremony, then 4 days after, that kind of like creates, you know, being with peyote 7 days a week.
That's right. Yeah.
So there's no time to be flirtatious outside, you know.
And the cactus relayed this to you, right?
Yeah.
Itself.
Yeah, we you know, I learned things through ingesting this cactus in ceremony and then watching the fire and then tending fire. And one of the biggest teachings that came through to me, because I would hear people talking about poking fire and this and that, and fire, and the peyote, you know, told me, like, you treat the fire like you do a woman.
Yeah.
You know, and if you do, you'll get warmth, you'll get fed, you'll be taken care of. You know, but if you're disrespectful, you're going to get burned, you're going to get scolded, and you're not going to have a good time.
Yeah, that's right.
You know, so that was something that I learned through peyote about fire in the ceremony.
Yeah.
You know, and it's just, I mean, that's one of my most favorite things to do is to tend fire in peyote ceremony.
Yeah.
I've been doing that for years, and I love it.
Yeah.
You know?
Incredible. Well, yeah. Do you have any parting thoughts before we conclude the video? I mean, anything you want to relay to people about, you know, peyote, spirituality?
You know, I would like to see everybody that is growing these, you know, what the work that we're doing and what we've been talking about, like how to help, you know, grow more of these cactuses for ceremony. You know, and with our elders that could have a hard time getting it, or, you know, whatever, create being able to grow lots and lots and lots of these cactuses for ceremony.
Yeah.
And actually helping our indigenous friends that can't afford to pay the $500 to $1,000 that they need to pay for the peyote medicine. Yeah. Because it's so expensive to get it.
It is.
You know, and it's like, you know, not everybody has $1,000 that they can pay for medicine.
That's right.
You know, and what's interesting is, you know, back in the early 1900s, 1,000 buttons would fill a gunny sack. You know, a big burlap sack. Now, that many buttons fills half a paper bag.
Yeah, they are.
Because the buttons, we no longer are being able to harvest the big buttons because they're not around. They're already ingested, they're already taken away. It's not so much poaching. It's not so much, I would say, as people poaching. And there are people out there that are poached, but the people that are poaching and selling, they're called out very quick on Facebook and on other platforms, real quick. People don't like people that are poaching and selling. Yeah. But if you're, you know, harvesting seeds in the wild and sharing them for traders and collectors, I really like that, because you can get different genetics of the different peyotes in different areas are brought in. Yeah. So it's a whole new frontier with this. That's right. You know, and I truly, like I said, here I am living down in Florida, growing peyote, and I give it rainwater every day. Yeah. You know, every day that I can give it rainwater or spring water, I do. Yeah. You know, and it loves it. Yeah. You know, I keep it out of the torrential downpours. Yeah. But you know, that's important. Because peyote's kind of evolving to whatever climate that it's in. Yep. I got friends all over Europe, clear up into Norway, that are growing it. Yeah. You know, and not only growing it, but they're getting it to flower too, and they're collecting seeds. Yeah. You know, and it's like, it's just nice to be able to find other people. I mean, some of the biggest growers in Taiwan are growing them on other cactuses as grafts. Grafting, yeah. And then they're getting bigger, and then they cut that off and putting it back in the soil, so it they grow faster. And I'm not really sure how that would affect the mescaline buildup in the skin.
Yeah.
Because that's what builds up over time.
Okay.
Is the mescaline, because there's like 60 just because of how rare the medicine is.
That's right.
So it's like I want to be my best in ceremony. I want to pay attention. I want to really get these prayers out for the sponsor and for my families and the roadman and this medicine and the water, in the trees that give us the fire, everything, every aspect. Because that's what I truly believe that this peyote taught me, was just to respect everything, all the elements. Respect and approach everything in reverence like that.
That's right.
Because this medicine, you may be able to find people that are selling it online and you can buy one or whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's just a cactus collector. There's a lot of cactus collectors.
That's right.
That just collect it.
Yeah.
And with me, it's like I know the spiritualness of it, that I'm connected with it on many different levels. So
yeah. Well, incredible. Well, thank you for sharing your knowledge today, and we have intentions of doing tons of videos with you because you have a lot of good spiritual and esoteric things to bring to the world that I think will help people as they navigate, this medicine community that's building in the United States. I mean, there's some very foundational knowledge I feel like you can share with the world to help people more safely and just navigate it with more integrity, I guess, and stand in the truth. And so, yeah, we're going to be back, and we thank you very much for doing it today.
Thank you.
Real quick, you were talking the other day about listening to nature and the nature informing you about these songs and prayers. Can you expound on that a little bit again?
Yeah. We had learned songs. Because I was very grateful in the 90s, being in Hawaii and having all these different Native American teachers from all these different tribes coming over, because I shouldn't say most of them, all the natives, even a lot of the old time Hawaiians that I set up in ceremony with, have all passed away.
Yeah.
All the elders that I set up with have all passed away. I'm 54 now, so they would have been they were already in their late 70s, 80s when I was sitting up with them. But they would share songs with us, and then just eating the medicine and hanging out in the waterfall.
Yeah.
And listening to the birds.
Yeah.
And then hearing the wind go through the trees, and it was like, wait a minute, there's something there. And then this it's like the water coming down the way that the lava had formed. The beds of the rivers, and as the water was coming down, you could hear it it would almost sound like the water drum.
Yeah.
Oh, so the water coming down the way it was trickling in these one spots, and we found these areas in the river that had lava bubble. You can go in. They had echoes, right?
Yeah.
And we would just be we'd go in there and start playing with our voices, playing, and then feeling that, and then just listening.
Yeah.
And it's listening, and that's what the medicine was teaching us. Just listen to nature.
Yeah.
And then you can start singing the songs and learning the songs. And I've had I have an ability to be able to hear the songs and pick them up really quick.
Yeah.
And sometimes in ceremonies they'll come through too. And with this particular rattle, which is a little bit different than the way a lot of the traditional rattles are. This piece on the top, it's a spirit catcher, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, this spirit catcher, most people you either use goat hair or horsetail.
Yeah.
I use cat whiskers.
Oh wow.
These are all cat whiskers for my.
Because that's kind of the cat sensory thing, right?
Yeah. This is what I was guided to do, and this is,
incredible.
But yeah, it took me many years to finally get this all put together, because I wanted to. I was gifted the Purple Heart by a roadman that's down in the LA area. He had given me this piece of Purple Heart that was from the same wood that his staff and his pieces are from.
Oh, incredible.
I was gifted this by Kingfisher on the island 20 some years ago, and then to turn it purple, we had some ganja butter.
Yeah.
Put ganja butter on it, put it in the fire, and it on the fire, and that's what turned it purple.
Oh wow!
And then on the inside, I don't know if you can see that or not, but on the inside it's called a Tibetan prayer bead.
Okay.
And it's a star.
Yeah, see, that's beautiful.
Then I did the beadwork here to represent a fire.
Yeah.
And then just other designs that were coming to me. And then the tassel is all made from the very first deer that I ever helped leave its life because it got hit by a car.
Yeah.
It was still alive, and I helped it out of its life and butchered it, and gave meat for ceremony.
Yeah. That's a big part of the ceremony is the meat at the end.
Yeah. So we used it deer meat, and then I tanned the leather myself and actually had it. So is that I wanted to make this. All my instruments I make like this, but I wanted to make this particular one because it's mine.
Yeah.
As sacred as I could get it.
Absolutely.
So,
looks like you did a fantastic job.
Yeah, I put Herkimer diamonds on the inside, so my beads on the inside are little Herkimer diamonds.
Oh, wow.
Hey.